Oh, no, sorry, you were already recording. Okay. Over to you then, Rob.
Good morning and welcome to the Improvement Cafe as a final part of the Module 3 in the MOOC Improvement Fundamentals. My name is Rolf Barden and I work at Kulturum, Center of Learning and Innovation in the south of Sweden. And I was also your peer facilitator in Module 2. I hope you have grabbed your cup of coffee or a cup of tea now and sitting down listening to your QI hiker friends, and of course today also we are going to listen to two guest speakers of both. You might both have met them both already because they are quite famous in this world of quality improvement. I hope you also are ready to tweet and write comments or questions, especially questions to our guest speakers today, and I have the tweets. The tweets has to have the hashtag QI hikers, and you have to write that also in the text as you now know, I guess, all of you. And we will also you will also be able to chat on the chat board here on the window, that you see down here at the right hand of the screen. And we will be monitoring both the tweets and the chat, and my colleagues here, both in England and in Jönköping, Agatha here in Jönköping is with me, are going to send over the questions to me and I'll read them to our speakers. And today we'll start with listening to one of the most inspiring improvement leaders, I think, I call her the inspiring improvement leader with a capital I. He has inspired many people around the world, and he is also a true healthcare radical and a QI hiker, of course. And you're going to listen to her. I thought she was going to be in Canada, but now she's back in UK. So this is, of course, Helen Bevan, and I hope we all will be listening to that. Okay, I think sorry. I think we're supposed to meet the other speaker first. They say now here on the sign. So I have to say hello to our other guest from Denmark, then Christian von Plessen. He's also perhaps more practical, has a more practical and operational experiences and a more practical focus on measurements. So I think it's over to you, and you can present yourself better than I can, Christian.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear?
I think they can. I hear you at least.
Good morning. So I'm speaking from beautiful Denmark. We have sunny weather, and I'm looking forward to a beautiful weekend. I will talk about three things. Doing a test of change without measurement is like baking a cake without a scale. Number one. Number two, measurement without judgment is like baking a wedding cake for a birthday party of a newly divorced friend. And lastly, measurement without learning is like a cake without anybody to eat it. So I understand I will do this without interruptions, but please send your questions via the chat board or Twitter, and then you can ask afterwards. So my slides are obviously not here. There they are. Can you see my slides? Yeah. So baking a cake without a scale is like doing improvement work without measurement. So let's have a look at the model for improvement. You see a model for improvement on the left side and a model for improvement on the right side. And on the left side, you see there is something missing between what are we trying to accomplish and what change can we make that will result in an improvement. And obviously, this is where measurement comes in. Measurement is the link between what you're aiming to achieve and what you then do to get there. Measurement is the link between a gut feeling or a difference between a gut feeling and really knowing what happened. Measurement is also the link to a more scientific approach in improvement. So as you can see on the right side, in the middle, how will we know the changes in improvement? Measurement also comes in, obviously, in the PBSA under the study part. So this is what measurement comes in. So measurement is really important in improvement. Some people say you can't improve anything if you can't measure it. And that goes back to the logic that you need to be able to see a difference between how things were before you try to improve them and after. So let's move to number 2. So the wedding cake on the left and the birthday cake on the right. So measurement without judgment, though, is like giving a wedding cake to a friend who's newly divorced. So why is that? So let's have a look at this chart. You can see a chart depicting days since last, sorry, I get a message here. Days since last crash call on a ward and the time on the horizontal axis, and on the vertical axis you see the days. And what you can see here is that the number of days between 2 crash calls is increasing. So this is good. This is measurement of something that is relevant. And that's, I think, the first judgment you have to think about when you think about measurement is that choose something that makes sense or that is important for patients. So measure things that are important. The other thing you can see here is the correct use of the early warning score. So that's a scoring algorithm for vital signs that helps you find patients that are in danger of getting a cardiac arrest and then a crash call perhaps. Find these patients earlier. And this team, same ward, has been working on that for quite a while. And as you can see on the chart, over time, the percentage of correct use of the early warning score is increasing. The second judgment is measure things where you can find a connection between what you want to achieve, so the aim in your test, and what you're doing. So here, improving early warning score can contribute to getting fewer cardiac arrests. The third judgment I want to mention is, look at these slides here. These are, again, crash calls now on 6 units, and you can see how different they are. One unit is having crash calls very often. The one on the top on the right is having less frequent crash calls, and the one on the bottom on the left only had 2. Time frame is the same in these charts. So, so these are obviously very different wards, 6 out of 32 in a big hospital, and they have crash calls with a very different frequency, which is also obviously driven by that they have very different patients. But they've also been working very differently with improvement. So these are the kind of correlated measures from 6 wards, and this is looking at it from a different level. So, for example, a department or a hospital. So the third judgment is make sure you think about which level you're looking at when you measure. So for a hospital director, it's very interesting to see the variation in these measures, and then can work across units and perhaps help one unit to learn from the other. And this again is crash calls per month in a whole hospital. So when we put all the 32 units together, you get this curve where you can see that actually crash calls have been decreasing over time from around 12 to around 6. So this is also not the level on a unit, on a ward, for example, but it is the level of a hospital. So 3 things. Measure what's important for patients. Make sure that what you're measuring is related to what you want to achieve. And 3, make sure that you measure and aggregate on the level that you're interested in, for example, a ward as opposed to a hospital. And the last, perhaps most important, measurement without learning is like a cake, baking a cake and having nobody eating it. So look at this chart. Again, you see the early warning score on a unit, where you can see it's moving up and down, and in the right end, it has been 100% for a couple of times, for a couple of weeks, last 4 weeks. They're moving up and down. Interesting data, but so what? Well, actually, it gets more interesting when Peter, the charge nurse of this ward, uses these data here in a team meeting where she presents the early warning score, as you can see, with a red and yellow and green in front of her board, in front of her screen where all the patients are. And you can see, perhaps you can see, that there are also the same color codings on that screen. So she's talking about this. And here she's holding the early warning score sheet of 1 patient. So she's putting these data in relation to individual patients. And there comes learning. Even more so, when she starts annotating the chart, you can see in the chart, week 18, they started doing audits. But then the charge nurse went on holiday and things didn't go so well from between week 15 to 20. And then in the end, they've been doing, and then in the middle part, they've been doing a lot of work. Then in the end, it's getting better, even though the charge nurse is on a leave. And what have they been doing? Well, have a look at point 2, for example, where the charge nurse and the quality coordinator together audit weekly, and then they review a case in the team meeting. So they do not only collect the data, look at them, but they also share them with the team and relate them to individual patients. So that is learning. And that is what we want. Here, a nurse on a pulmonary ward, she looks at a ward where you can see different kinds of data, and as you can see, she's relating to this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Christian. That was very helpful and thoughtful and wise, I think, to show the different levels and the points you stressed here. I think now we go on to Helen Bevan. As I told you, she's probably one of the most famous improvement leaders going around the world. And we're happy to have her here, and we're going to leave the floor to you now, or the screen to you now. Helen, please go on.
Yeah. Thank you, Rolf, very much. So could I have my slide with my 3 questions on? It's really great. Yeah, fantastic. It's really great for me to go after Christian, because I think what Christian showed us there was, the real power of what happens when we hardwire the model for improvement into our daily work. And what I want to do is I want to move us, in a sense, building on those really strong foundations that Christian showed us there. I want to actually talk about how the model for improvement actually is a catalyst to where I think improvement thinking is going into the future. So my job as Chief Transformation Officer with NHS Improving Quality, a lot of it's about linking up with people all over the world who are thinking about large-scale change and transformation, and where the future is taking us. And, you know, when I think about the model of improvement, it's one of the very first things that I learned as an improvement practitioner in the National Health Service in England 20 years ago. And, you know, all the way through my improvement career, the last 20 years, I think that the model for improvement has been, you know, a backbone of my own thinking and practice as an improvement practitioner. I also think not only is it you know, an outstanding framework for, you know, thinking about improvement every day, I also think it is way ahead of its time in terms of where improvement is going. So what I want to do is I want to focus my remarks on, you know, how the model for improvement can help us in terms of thinking about the future and where we need to go. And what I want to do is talk about three themes. So let's just talk a little bit about the context. You see, we're moving into an era now, it's very clear, where across the world, across multiple industries, change is happening more and more quickly. So whilst, you know, there will always be a place for the kind of fantastic incremental improvement that Christian showed us, in addition, we need to be thinking about radical, large-scale change, as you know, as our health systems are in a situation where, you know, money is becoming increasingly tight. The demands and needs of our patients, you know, is growing all the time. We also need, you know, very big, large-scale change. And also being part of an era where I think just the sheer issue or the scale of the, technological changes and the opportunities that digital connectivity gives us means, you know, that we can connect up all over the world. We can learn very quickly. So let's just talk about my three themes. So my first theme is I think we're moving to an era away from piloting towards testing. And again, you know, we look at the PDSA cycle, which is at the heart of the model for improvement, plan, do, study, act. You know, this is very much part of this. But what's you know, starting to happen is that because we're needing to make change happen so much more quickly, we're moving away from, you know, very big, you know, pilot programs where, you know, we pilot a new care model or pilot a new way of working with patients, and, you know, we pilot it for 6 months or 12 months or 24 months. And I think we're moving to an era of very, you know, quick and rapid testing, and I think it's something that the model for improvement can help us with greatly. So, you know, instead of piloting something for 6 months, we might test it in a week. You know, instead of putting a lot of resources and taking a lot of risks in a pilot, we seek to do those things, you know, very, very quickly. And we're also moving into an era of what I'd call 30, 60, 90-day change cycles. So instead of, you know, big improvement programs across our organizations or our systems that may take 2 years or 3 years, we're moving into an era where we're you know, trying to make change happen very, very quickly. So here is what we call sprints. Can you hear me okay? Just saw somebody said they lost their sound. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you again.
Your sound's back now.
Yeah. So we're very much moving into a time where you know, we're organising our change activity into literally, you know, sprints that are no more than 30 days at a time. So it's like saying, you know, in terms of the particular work that we're wanting to do now, and you know, the particular change project, how can we do it in 30 days? What can we do in 60 days? And we never have a change project that's more than 90 days overall. And we're using these kind of approaches more and more now. So some of the areas where we've been working with 30, 60, 90-day sprints within NHS Improving Quality, we've been working on on an initiative around getting access to wheelchairs for people with complex needs, getting access to wheelchairs quickly. And again, we've done that as a series of sprints. We've been involved in some work which is around people with learning disabilities and psychotropic drugs, because often what happens, certainly in this country, is that many people with learning disabilities who've got no mental health issues at all are being fed very powerful drugs in ways that are really inappropriate. So, how we tackle that, again, doing that through 30, 60, 90-day change cycles. We're just starting some work now around access to endoscopy, and again, that's been a very big issue for us in this country. And for like 10, 15 years, we've been trying to solve that one. So how can we maybe, by focusing in on doing things in very quick, rapid tests and sprints of change. So I think that one of the ways that, in a sense, we're taking the kind of testing philosophy of the model for improvement forward is on the use of prototyping. And I've put here high fidelity prototype. And what we mean by a high fidelity prototype is how can we prototype something? How can we test something in a way that we can really think about the usability and test out the usability in ways that make our prototype very, very practical. So I think this is one of the ways that the idea of the philosophy of testing that we see in the model for improvement is moving forward. Because if we're going to try some different things and we want to create more rapid change, rather than saying how can we, or as well as saying how can we test a new way of doing things, a small new way of doing things with a small number of patients? What we now say is how could we actually prototype or test out, the whole of a new model for change or a new process, clinical process. How can we do it really, really quickly? So we're using, lots of approaches like simulation, like testing things out in real life, like building things. So I think the model for improvement has had a long and an important history, and it's helped a lot of colleagues to deliver results. And I also think it's highly appropriate, into the future when we also start to introduce design thinking, short sprints, and using prototypes. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much, Helen. It's very interesting to hear you talk about how we should speed up the way we work with change. And there's so much happening in technology and other things around us. So I think you're so right. So now we have some minutes left here for some questions, so I will not talk so much myself, so I'll just read some of the questions. We have a questions for Christian again, if you're still here.
I am.
Yes, good. QI hack is doing, do you have any experience from patient self-tracking, like the Sara Riggare in, I think she works at Karolinska or something in Sweden, is blogging about? Do you know what this is about?
I know what it is about. I don't have experience more than that, for example, patients are very good at preventing pressure ulcers themselves if you let them do it, for example. But in many ways, a lot of the measures you can collect for improvement, also in a test, can be patient-reported. So, for example, patients can observe if health staff is washing hands, and they can count that. So that will be one example. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, good. I think so. I think we talk also about that here in Jönköping, and letting the ability for patients to track their own data, and with a new technique you can put them right into the measurements in the hospital.
Right.
Okay.
There are other examples, for example, in rheumatology, where patients score the inflammation in their joints themselves at home, and then they take these data, or the data are actually stored online, and then the doctor and the patient together can look at this, so that you get more co-production idea of health service.
Okay. I think I see here also that Lucy Reddings has a question for Helen, I think. Excel R8 by John Cotter is all about radical change, she writes here, at pace, and the idea of testing rather than running pilots. How is this idea being embedded in the highest levels of the NHS in particular? NHS?
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Okay. So I think Accelerate by John Cotter is a really fantastic book about change, and I would encourage everyone to read it. And essentially, what John Cotter says in this book is that that what we can't do anymore is because, again, he's got a similar analysis in the sense that, the world is changing so quickly that we've got to change our approach to change. And what he basically says is that we have to understand that working in hierarchies and trying to make change happen, like push it down, command people to do things, create compliance, is not an appropriate way of making change happen in the future. Because the problem with hierarchies is that they are inherently risk averse, and they're too slow. So what he basically says is, obviously there are lots of levers with hierarchies that are important. They're just not enough. So what we also need to do is that we need to focus on networks, and we need to start getting people organised. And we've got to help people embrace change because they want to, not because they have to. So actually, I see a lot of this thinking coming in the NHS, much more so than was around, say, a year or 18 months ago. Because I think it's not to say that I don't think that command and control and hierarchical and compliance-based approaches are still very, very strong. But I think people are starting to realise that you can't make change happen inside a single organisation. We have to work across whole systems. We have to work with patients and communities in very different ways. And we can't do that through hierarchy. We have to work with networks. We have to build partnerships. We have to build a sense of community. And actually, the kind of prototyping and testing I'm talking about, where we get a real diverse group of people to try things out in new ways, I think is very much the direction that things will go in the NHS.
Okay. We're running out of time, so I go on to the next question directly here. It's another one for you, Helen, and it's about perhaps more about research than quality improvement work, but it's like this. One of the barriers is time and energy taken to get ethical approval for service change. Any thoughts?
Okay. So I think the whole issue about ethics is, do we actually need it or don't we? And I think a lot of people get very confused about what is quality improvement and what is research, and start thinking that a quality improvement project where we're trying to make a difference is the same thing as a research project when we're trying to create new knowledge. So the first thing I would check and question is, do we really need ethical approval? Because I think people might be getting confused between research and quality improvement, and in that case I think it's really important to do some work, like a lot of organisations have done, to say this is where quality improvement begins and ends, and this is where research begins and ends. And many organisations are able to do fantastic quality improvement very ethically without having to get ethics approval. And what I'd also say is a lot of these approaches that I'm talking about, for instance, high fidelity prototyping, where we're creating an environment where people are creating scenarios or undertaking a simulation. You don't need ethical approval to do lots of those things. You don't need ethical approval to do the kinds of things that Christian was talking about. And sometimes I think that people that are resistant to change are saying you need ethical approval when actually you don't.
Okay. I hope we can have another extra 5 minutes because we were so slow in the start. So if you are able to stay for another 5 minutes or so. There's another question about, when you talk so much about, Helen, about speeding up, there is a question like this. Surely some change needs time to be embedded and manifest different work practices. How do we identify which changes may need more time?
Yeah. So I think that, the issue here isn't necessarily about the specific changes and whether they're going to take time or not. I think that a lot of the issues here are about how we create the conditions where innovation can happen. Because I think that in too many places in healthcare, people feel very frightened or fearful about innovating. And how can we actually create the conditions where everybody feels that they can go ahead and make change happen? That they don't need that everybody can take responsibility for improving the quality of their own services. So I think a lot of this is to do with how as leaders we create the environment where quality improvement and innovation can thrive. And what I'd also say is that very big changes can be broken up into lots of small changes. And we talk about rapid tests of change. So I think when we're trying to change very big things, we can change them in agile ways. I think that actually focusing in on a sprint, and a sprint typically is no more than 30 days. I think that's a really great way of making big change happen. And the kind of big complex changes that we're talking about here, they just need more sprints. But you can't create a big radical change in 30 days. But what you can do is break it up and find the things that you can change and you can test. And in my experience, so much of this is about having a group of people who are passionate and engaged and are being given permission to make change happen. And I think when you have that kind of environment, you really can change the world.
Okay, very helpful and interesting answer there.
To Christian. Comment on that. Yeah.
Okay, Christian, yeah, answer as well, yeah.
Yeah, great. Kind of building on what you're saying, Helen, I think. So there is a trade-off between effectiveness and thoroughness here, and what from my experience with improvement teams is really important. What leaders can do is giving them time to practice. So if you get good at doing tests, you can do more of them. So you can get better at finding the right balance between moving fast and being thorough, and that's what takes time.
Yeah. I also think, Christian, that increasingly there's a lot of techniques and approaches that enable teams to kind of be given the space and the support and the improvement methods, to really be able to think things through. And we can't do the kind of things that we're seeking to do if we don't create the space and the conditions and the relationships that enable people to do change. So I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, there's also a question here for Christian, first of all, I think, and so it's about with the current. It says like this: with all the current pressures at ward level, meaning the staff being able to look after patients, how can we empower frontline to be change agents and embrace quality improvement. And there are some other questions also about how can we engage consultants or the senior doctors and other doctors.
Yeah.
I don't know. Perhaps you could start, Christian.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's a little bit about what we've been talking about. So the first question back would be, who is we in this? How can we empower? Do you mean leaders, or on what level? But anyway, I think if it is leaders, but also teams themselves, it is create space for learning. It's create space for practice, and then it is what Helen mentioned. Give them the support they need. Cincinnati Children's, for example, has a wonderful thing that they call just-in-time teaching. So when there is a need of teaching, they can call, and then somebody comes by and teaches. So it's not that you go on a course for a week next week or next month, but you get the tools or the learning or the teaching just when you need it. And so the support system, in a way, the meso system in a hospital, for example, all the things around it, the quality department, for example, has to be much more agile in this kind of way of doing improvement, than they oftentimes are.
Okay. I think we have to end now, because I know both Christian and Helen people are very busy all the time, and we promise to not keep you waiting or sitting here for more than half an hour, and also you other QI hikers looking. I think you have to go on, write questions on Twitter, and we will make a summary of the tweets, and perhaps we can ask people like our guest speakers today and others to answer those questions. And I think I have to thank you, Christian and Helen, so very much for joining this Improvement Cafe today, the last day of the third module. And already on Monday, we're going on with the fourth module, where Agata, my colleague here, will be your peer facilitator in the course. And keep on writing questions and comments on social media with the hashtag QI Hikers, and also use the discussion forum and reflective journal and things that we have on Blackboard. I think we just have to end then, and thank you so much for watching us, and goodbye to you all. Have a nice day.
Hello? Are there? Helen?
Yes.
Hi. Everybody go.
No, I'm still here. But
I was just wondering if we just could use 2 minutes to debrief.
Okay. I don't. What you say?
Where are all the others?
Maggie,
Helen, I can still see Helen, but.
I think Helen's got to go off to catch a flight somewhere, so she might rush off. But,
okay. So who's talking now? Is it Margaret?
yes.
Hi there. I can't see you. Hi. There you are.
Hi.
Yes. So.
Camera today.
Yeah, you still have the camera from the left upper angle. Good. So how did it go?
I think it went well. I was listening along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as usual. The chat picked up later on. We've still got quite a few attendees still on the line.
Okay. So please, attendees, we're debriefing. So we're just trying to learn from this test of change, because we have done a couple of changes, and then try to see if it works better than last.
There are still questions. Do you think you could answer them with Twitter or so, Christian?
Yeah, obviously I can. Yeah.
If they find something, you can. Our followers can or students or QA hikers can read them on Twitter, that would be.
Yeah, I can answer questions later today after 8, but that will be fine. I'll be on a train for 3 hours. So.
Oh, that would be splendid. Fantastic.
If I can answer them. Yes.
If you can, yeah. I think at least
try.
some of them.
I'll try.
Great. And I think we have other people also who can take part of in the discussion. I hope it was useful.
Yeah, I think we can stop. We can disconnect and stop recording, right?